It's all about truth. All of it. Every single thing. All boils down to the truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free. Yes, we all want truth, and yes, indeed, the truth will set you free. Welcome to the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. This is PFT Live. We're going to be live here for the next hour or so, taking your questions from the chat. As you can see from the title of this video, we're going to be talking about this Saudi teen who's just been granted asylum in Canada. We're going to be talking about the Danforth shooter, who documents have just revealed, it turns out, was a bit of a 9/11 truther. He had a whole bunch of 9/11 truth documentaries and documentaries about Iraq and things of that nature also in his possession. And we're also going to be talking about a confrontation that happened yesterday with Justin Trudeau and our very own PFT East Coast correspondent, Leigh Stuart, who actually joins me on the line right now to break down all these stories and to break down what you did yesterday. So Leigh, thanks so much for joining us here today. I know this is our first one for the new year. In fact, let me get the chat window up so everybody can be on the screen. If you guys want to get your questions in, you can see them right here on the screen. And we're going to be paying close attention to the chat as we go through here. So be sure to get your questions in. Of course, we will be favoring the super chats because, as you know, we got to eat too. So yeah, you want to get your super chats in, is greatly appreciated. But otherwise, we'll be answering anyone's questions. I'm also posting this on Steemit. If you're not familiar with Steemit, check out steemit.com/@pressfortruth. And anybody who is on Steemit, you can get your questions in there, and I'll head back and forth, and we'll bounce around and try to get in everyone's question. Now, I'm hearing that, Leigh, we don't have any audio from you. Try talking again for a sec. Can you hear me now, Leigh? Okay, so can't hear her. Okay, so maybe try taking out your headphones for a second. We'll just see if we can get audio from your, like, unplug it from the laptop and see if we can get audio from your mic on your laptop. Uh-oh, lost video, but can we hear you now? Got video back. Now, try talking, we'll see if we can hear you. Oh, you're not going to be able to hear me. Okay, folks, bear with us. We're going to have to figure out this audio situation with Leigh. Okay, we got her back now. Folks in the chat, let us know if you can hear Leigh now. And if we can, we'll be good to go. Try saying something again, Leigh. Okay, let me test. Okay, bear with me, folks. I gotta literally go into the audio settings here live. Okay, let's see. We need to go to this, I believe.
Can you guys hear me? Oh boy. Okay, they got it. Okay, hold on. Can you guys hear? Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's what happens though with a live show. I was saying when I was muted, I missed the live show because you can interact with the chat, and that's literally what just happened. We interacted with you guys for about like 10 minutes. Oh, now they can't hear you. Oh no. This is what happens when we go live. Stuff happens.
Both muted now. Oh my God. Okay. Let me try this again. Oh boy. Check.
Now, Dan, they
Okay.
can hear you.
I think I've
Can
got
you
it.
both hear? Can you hear both of us?
I'm back. I think Leigh's back. Please, for the love of God,
Can
tell
you guys
me
hear
you can
me
hear us
too
both.
at the same time? Both are good. Okay.
Yes. Woo.
Okay,
All
I'm glad
right.
we worked that out. See, it's all
Finally.
about being a team player. We did it.
That's the
Great. It
life
took
of the
like what,
indie media.
158 people to get our mics working.
Yeah, you see, it's literally just us, folks. You know, we don't have that like massive conglomerate media team behind us. So I'm literally doing on the fly editing and technical troubleshooting as we go live. But anyways, we got it. We're good. We're loud and clear. So let's pull it back a bit, Leigh.
Now we can carry on.
Now we can get on. We can get on with the show now that we've gotten over that little speed bump. But
Okay,
so where
that's
were
fine.
we?
It got a chance to get people to come in.
Exactly true. And when I brought you in, they didn't hear anything you said off the top. Yeah, we were talking a little bit about. We're going to get into your confrontation with Trudeau. Let's just jump right into that. And oh man, I hope they can hear this. So give me one sec, guys. We're going to pull this up on Leigh's Twitter, and I'll show you. We're going to play this for you now. All right, and let me just switch this over. Okay, so check this out, folks. This is Leigh confronting Justin Trudeau. Now, as you can imagine, you know, you go into these town hall meetings, and when you're Leigh Stuart of Press for Truth, who confronted him last year in an epic fashion, you know, you're going to have all eyes on you, especially when you're wearing a Make Trudeau a Drama Teacher Again hoodie. All eyes are on her. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not too likely that she'd be getting in a question. So you got to, you know, resort to giving him a piece of your mind, which is exactly what you did. So we're going to go ahead and play this now. This is Leigh just yesterday confronting the Prime Minister of Canada. Let me know if you guys can hear that.
No sound for the video.
No sound for the video? Okay, hang on. Let me pause this. Are you guys getting sound from that video? Let us know in the chat. I gotta go back over to the live dashboard. Nope, barely. Okay. All right, guys, we're obviously having some... some people are saying it was faint. And they could just barely hear it. It was just very, very low. Okay, we're obviously having some serious problems with our audio today. But okay, maybe Leigh, you can kind of reiterate it for us or break it down, because essentially, I don't want to spoil it or for everyone, but you were basically talking about you started it off by talking about that veteran who asked for more funding and was denied. Just tell us about what went through your mind when you decided to confront Trudeau, and what exactly did you say to him?
Well, I waited 2 hours. I waited for 2 hours outside of Brock University in St. Catharines, Ontario. I caught wind like a few days before that he was going to be doing his town hall in my area. So I decided to take it upon myself, as I do, to when the Prime Minister's in town and he's right down the road. Of course, I'm going to go and try to get in. So. I was one of the 2,000 that got in to the gymnasium at Brock University. And, a lot of people speculate that the questions that he's asked are pre-screened, that he knows exactly what he's going to be asked. So he's prepared to have an answer. So there's no ums and ahs. And I do have to give him credit, because in his town halls this year, there have been no ums and ahs. And I will give him credit for that. But Yeah, wearing the Make Trudeau a Drama Teacher Again sweatshirt kind of put me on the radar. I noticed that his Secret Service had their eye on me. I don't know if they recognized me from last year, but yeah, so a few of the questions that he was being asked was like, who do you think's going to win the Stanley Cup? What is Canada going to do about climate change? What do you think about the rise of populism in Europe? Just very basic, lame questions. And then some guy had a reminiscent about meeting his father back in 1979, and he shook his hand. There was no real questions from Canadians, and I narrowed it down to the fact that Trudeau holds these town halls in universities on purpose because these kids don't pay taxes. They don't, they don't pay property taxes. They don't really pay attention to what is actually going on in Canada. So, I kind of got bored with these questions. I was like, there's no one challenging him. They're just eating what he's spoon feeding, and it was kind of making me sick. So, yeah, I stood up. He skimmed over me, of course, wearing the sweatshirt I was wearing. But yeah, so I stood up and I reminded him of the veteran who last year, his name is Brock Blaschek, addressed the Disabled Veterans Program, and he got the answer of the Canadian government can't give you what you're asking for. Basically, veterans are asking for too much, more than we can give right now. And I reminded him, like, April this year, they're going to be cutting $1.8 billion from the Disabled Veterans Program. Meanwhile, there's, illegal immigrants walking into this country, on the taxpayer's dime. If that border had been shut down, maybe he would have more money to go towards disabled veterans. So that was kind of the point I was making, but you can't really see in the video that I took, but he basically just quieted me down, didn't even address me, didn't want to talk about Roxham Road, didn't want to talk about veterans. He'd rather talk about who's going to win the Stanley Cup. Yeah. And what he did on Christmas Day. He's not there for the challenging questions. He even, in his preamble to the town hall, before he started even taking questions, he said, like, I'm going to be challenged with questions that not everyone's going to agree with. From my perspective, the questions that he was answering were all questions that he was able to answer and didn't necessarily disagree with. And nobody disagreed with my question either. They just sat there in silence. It was like the photo that came out of the live stream of me standing up and asking him a question. The people around me, there's one girl like covering her face in the background, you can see, and then everyone else is like, their faces just look so apathetic. Like I call it the apathy photo, because that's what Canada, like, that's what's happening in Canada right now. Apathy is just running rampant.
I have it on the screen now.
And we have to do something to change that.
This is a tweet. Town hall is briefly interrupted by a heckler. Can't make out what she's saying, but the text on her hoodie reads, "Make Trudeau a drama teacher again." This was recently tweeted out. And then in this Twitter thread, a bunch of mainstream news outlets like CTV News started chiming in and saying they recognized you from last year's heckling.
Yeah. It's just, that photo totally sums up the current state of Canada. If Justin Trudeau is selected again, like I say, and our votes actually do matter, I mean, we deserve him getting in another term. I'm not going to be surprised, honestly.
Yeah, well, now, I mean, I know he's absolutely riding virtue signaling on this new kind of opportunity for him to grandstand once again with this Saudi teenager who's seeking asylum and has been granted such. Now, maybe we can get into that now. Before we do, maybe I should take a quick look back at the chat, make sure we're not missing anybody's important questions in the chat window. And if you have the watch page open too, keep an eye out for any questions that we may get from people in the chat. And I'm quickly going to scroll through here. If I see any questions, we'll get to it, and if I don't, we'll just move on to this next story, which is very, very, very telling, actually, of the Canadian government right now. All right, I don't see too many questions in here. Somebody says, "Who voted for this guy?" Be honest with yourself. I certainly didn't. I know that's for sure. All right, we don't have any questions, so we're just going to move on. I've got a couple of articles I want to pull up briefly here. Let me just switch this over. Like this one here, it says, Saudi teen granted asylum in Canada hopes to encourage other women to be brave. And she recently has been doing her rounds around the media, encouraging people around the world to in Saudi Arabia and other countries that suppress people to do similar things. We also see here a Saudi teen granted asylum in Canada gets 24-hour security amid online threats. The Saudi teen who fled alleged abuse by her family considers herself one of the lucky ones now that she has arrived as a refugee in Canada, but the agency tasked with getting her settled has still arranged 24-hour security for her in the wake of these online threats. So she's apparently receiving threats online and now has 24-hour security granted to her. Her Twitter account here is being taken off, blowing up. We're gonna look through that. She already got 190,000 followers here, so she's quite popular on social media. And Leigh, what do you make of this story? I mean, obviously Trudeau is doing some serious virtue signaling here on this one. What were your initial thoughts when you first heard of this teen seeking asylum and then being granted it?
Right. So, like, if people don't know the details, this teenager, 18 years old, was on a trip with her family in Kuwait, escaped from her abusive father and brother, who she has said, have locked her out of her house for having a haircut they didn't like, and so on. But she claimed also that her passport was kept on her father's bedside table, but was somehow able during this family trip to Kuwait to get her passport and use a friend's credit card to seek asylum in Bangkok. And yeah, and it's just all the whole story is very, very strange. I have so many questions, like, and then, yeah, like her Twitter campaign was launched, and the Canadian mainstream media automatically was right behind her right from the get-go, retweeting her tweets right on, like, save this girl who needs asylum. And it was Australia that actually stepped up to the plate, said they were going to take her in. And but they actually said, she's got to go through the proper vetting process, which is going to take up to 2 years. And that's when Canada stepped in and was like, you know what, we're just going to take her, don't bother vetting. Just let her into the country. She didn't have to wait, which could take up to 2 years. Well, maybe even longer now with these illegals coming over. But yeah, like, it's just, the whole story is just so very, I don't even know what to call it. It's very obvious to the narrative that they're trying to push here. She's greeted by Chrystia Freeland, wearing, a UN hat and a Canada sweatshirt. And, this is right on the coattails of the UN Compact on Migration. It's the Cinderella story, basically. And Canada was there to rescue her. And, if this isn't a virtue signal for votes for Justin Trudeau, I mean, I don't know what is. And who's to say that, if this story is true, and it reminds me of, it coincides with the Me Too movement as well. It's just like, believe the woman at any claim. Don't, there's no due process. The father claim, disregards any allegation against him. He disavows it. She's actually changed her last name, so there's no going back and looking into seeing who her family is.
So the claims against her father could... So it could potentially be not true at all. She could just maybe potentially be a kind of a brat who ran away from home, right? Isn't that possible?
Yeah, exactly. And who's to say, like, now with Canada's immigration system, she's now considered an anchor relative in Canada, which means she can bring her own family here and they don't have to go through the vetting process either. So, and I also find it very comical that, with this third party agreement and the loopholes that Canada has, can you actually seek asylum in two different countries? I thought it was the first country that you land in that you actually have to seek asylum to. I don't know. I don't know about that. I think that's what's happening at Roxham Road right now.
Yeah,
Pretty sure. I don't think you can seek asylum in two countries. So,
I know, and
um,
I'm so glad you
yeah,
brought
she's
that point
completely a
up.
pawn.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. She's whether she realizes it or not, she is being used by the Canadian government here to push a political agenda, an ideology, and it's probably backed by Trudeau's best buddy Soros, who we know Trudeau is essentially in bed with. Now she launched a GoFundMe campaign. I don't know if she launched it or if it was launched on her behalf. Um, Let me pull that up because I'm not sure what this is all about. Let me just show
Yeah,
everyone.
apparently someone started a GoFundMe. Family, friends, or people who are going to be taking care of her while she's in Canada have launched a GoFundMe, which I can't remember how many days, but just over 100 people have raised $10,000,
Well,
which is hilarious because the Canadian government is actually going to be funding her money for a year, her first year of being here. So is this going towards her Reebok modeling career? I don't know.
it says here
The whole thing, like
yep.
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it says here that they surpassed their goal in less than 24 hours. Thanks to everyone who donated. This is the official hashtag Save Rahaf. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Fundraiser. Rahaf al-Qunun, she, like you said, she changed her last name, made headlines for being the brave, fearless teenager who barricaded herself in a hotel room in Thailand and refused to be put on a plane back to Saudi Arabia. Defying her family, her government, and all the odds against her, Rahaf has landed safely in Canada. Yeah, it's the absolutely, archetypal hero kind of, the struggling, Cinderella story, essentially. Her new Canadian family
Yeah.
want to start a fund for her. Starting a brand new life with nothing but the clothes on your back will be daunting for this 18-year-old girl, especially since she's not used to the harsh Canadian winters. And it goes on. And over $10,000 raised in less than 24 hours. Now that speaks a lot to the hearts of the Canadian people. Their intentions are in the right place. When we see people displaced and people who are going through, terrible atrocities in their home countries, yeah, it's good to help people. But again, there should be a vetting process. You know how many people in war-torn countries are on a waiting list to get in to Canada? How many good, honest, and there's a lot of Christian families who have been on the waiting list for almost decades, trying to get in here. So we have to consider that, when it comes to this case as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
it actually also just came out today that it just came out today that there was a breach in the vetting process, and that an illegal immigrant that had come here actually what does it say here? It came out today that a national security concern accidentally granted permanent residency in Canada. The CBSA dropped the ball on that one. They were vetting someone and granted someone an illegal immigrant permanent residency in Canada, and they were a national security concern. So this is literally the state of the processing system here in Canada. And if anyone thinks that this is a lone case of a national security concern, this is a one-off thing. It's not, because once there's one, there's probably many, and it's just it's a mess. It's an actual mess. And that's what I said to Justin Trudeau yesterday was, you have to shut down Roxham Road because you're literally letting in anybody without vetting them, and I find that very dangerous.
It just goes to show how important it is to support the private sector when it comes to private sponsorship programs, these church-based sponsorship programs, and things of that nature, and just to keep the government out of it completely. That's what I think we need to do, because yes, sometimes there are people who need help, but it has to be done right, and the government is just messing it up left, right, and center. So that's just not the way to go about it. Now I'm just going to quickly jump back to the chat window. Let me pull that up for everybody. We got, I see one question here. We got a question from Jim Masu. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I have a question. Does anyone know who owns the Bank of Canada? Anyone? The globalist Rothschild owned the Bank of Canada along with 164 other national banks, he says. Well, Jim, that's a good point. When it comes to the Bank of Canada, it was nationalized. It's technically supposedly owned by the Canadian people, or at least that's how it was designed to be, until 1974, when that was kind of reversed. And rather than the Canadian bank printing money for its own people at interest free, it started borrowing from the International Monetary Fund and the Bank of International Settlements and foreign interests at interest. So yeah, that's where it all failed. So technically, you could say it's nationalized, so the Canadian people own it, but not really, because we are heavily indebted to, as you say, the Rothschilds and people who own, the big stake in all the areas where Canada's been borrowing for the last, 20 or 30 years. So good question. You'd be familiar with the Comer case. I think that is still ongoing. It's been stalled many, many times. It's gone through appeal processes. That's the Committee on Monetary and Economic Reform, who's seeking to reverse all of this and put the power of banking back in the hands of the Canadian people. But yeah, it's not. It's supposed to be owned by us, but it's not, because we're pretty much owned by the Rothschilds, as you said. Good question. Let me see if there's any other questions, and otherwise, we do have another interesting story to get onto. Unless you have any other points, Leigh, you wanted to point out in regards to the Saudi teen who's being granted asylum under virtue signaling Justin Trudeau, because, yeah, we know that's what he's all about.
Yeah, one last point is, if she ever kisses and makes up with her family, who's to say they're not going to come here? And if her life was actually in danger, would they actually be broadcasting where she was going to be? If anything does happen to her, would the Canadian government be held responsible if her family did find her and anything did happen to her? So I find it lots of questions surrounding that whole thing. I guess we'll see what unfolds. It's still really early to see, will she run for politics? Who knows? Will she become a Reebok model? Who knows? But the whole thing is very, very strange, and all done for votes, basically.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a book or something like that in her foreseeable near future. Yeah, I could see that coming. All right. So check this out, guys. This is a story that just came out. Documents were revealed in the investigation into the Danforth shooter. As some of you may recall, last year, an individual was shooting up at some restaurants, and there were some patrons who were killed at some patios on the Danforth in Toronto. Tragic event, and it turns out that they raided the guy's home. And what they found inside was, along with his AK-47, magazines and ammo, they found a whole bunch of 9/11 Truth documentaries. So let me just pull up a couple of interesting articles I found on that one, and we'll go through these. So here we see Toronto mass shooter Faisal Hussein had AK-47 ammunition, 9/11 conspiracy DVDs in his bedroom, the police documents. Toronto police officers searching the bedroom of gunman Faisal Hussein after his deadly mass shooting in Toronto discovered a large trove of ammunition and magazines for more powerful guns and a pistol, new release documents say. Also recovered in the bedroom were several DVDs in the conspiracy theory genre, including by Alex Jones, the right-wing conspiracy buff behind the InfoWars website. And then, the article goes on about some of the other things they found. But then it gets into some of the actual documentaries. And here we see 9/11 in Plain Sight, The Road to Tyranny by Alex Jones, Terror Storm, Painful Deception, American Dictators, Iraq for Sale, weapons of mass deception, what is Islama. So a whole bunch of documentaries this guy had. And I also saw from another article, as you'll see here, Danforth shooter had conspiracy videos, ammo, police documents. They say police discovered a cache of ammunition and conspiracy theory videos from the Danforth killer. And this particular article lists some of the same videos by Alex Jones, Road to Tyranny, things like that. But then it also lists loose change. Loose change, in plain sight. And the other article didn't list that. So it makes me wonder, what other documentary films did he have in his possession? And, did he see the Toronto hearings on 9/11? Did he see Into the Fire? Did he see United We Fall? Did this guy see any Press for Truth videos? I'm kind of curious about that, and I'm looking for these documents to find out. But at any rate, Leigh, it seems like they're definitely going to use this to kind of shift the focus here and be able to pin the blame on these big bad conspiracy theorists and these right-wing lunatics who push these conspiracies like 9/11 leads to people running out in the streets and killing people. What are your thoughts? I mean, to me, it seems like that's the angle that we're going to see from a lot of the mainstream media on this one.
Well, it's funny because I tweeted not so long ago, because the last we heard of this case was back in July. There was no release from police other than the press conference that they did literally right after the shooting happened. So a lot of time has gone by, and it's not fresh in people's minds of what happened that day. There was a target. Okay, there was a common denominator of who he was targeting, and that was women. All the a majority of the people that he shot at, or the two young females that died, there's a common denominator here, and it was women. And he does have ties to Islam and terrorist background. There was carfentanil found in his brother's apartment. I mean, with all these guns and stuff, who is currently in a coma, who has also been in jail several times. I mean, people forget this because the mainstream media likes to push different narratives quickly so that things don't stick in your mind and you're on to the next thing, and just the news cycle basically. We can't forget his motive, and I think it's pretty obvious at this point what that was. And to blame right-wing extremists, I mean, when is it not going to be our turn? I mean, what is it? 80% of Canadians don't believe the official story. Is it 80%?
Yeah, well, it should be. I mean, the guy was a truther. Well, good for him. Like, what does that have to do with the fact that, he went out and did this? The fact that he woke up to some of these lies that the government have been spreading. I mean, good for him. And like we said, these things aren't connected. They aren't related at all. When you find out what this guy was into, it's not related to this whatsoever. So it's unfortunate that the media is going to be painting it like that. And this is actually leading to things that are going to be troubling for us moving forward in the field of independent media. The censorship is going to get heavier because of this. There's going to be, an all-out campaign to shut us down. In fact, I recently came across something. In fact, why don't I just pull it up and show everyone? This is a website that I recently found. Bear with me one sec. Here it is. And let me just pull this up on the screen. This is antihate.ca, and they say, help us put an end to hate. Exposing and stopping hate, the Canadian Anti-Hate Network monitors and counters hate groups. Our work is already having an impact. We've exposed and shut down prominent alt-right neo-Nazi propagandists. In the coming weeks, we'll publish profiles of hate groups in Canada. We need your support to continue and to work. And they go up here and they say, what is a hate group? And here's how they define hate group according to antihate.ca. They say, what is a hate group? Well, how we define a hate group. A hate group is a group which, as demonstrated by statements by its leader or its activities, is overtly hateful towards or creates an environment of overt hatred towards an identifiable group as defined in the Criminal Code, the Canadian Human Rights, or the Charter and Freedoms. Identifiable group means any section of public distinguished by color, race, religion, national or ethnic origin, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, or mental or physical disability. So that's who falls into that category, but essentially, you're not allowed to be overtly hateful towards anyone anymore, Leigh. Opinions don't matter anymore, and there's snowflakes out there. So if you have a harsh opinion, that can be deemed as being hateful, and therefore you should be silenced and shut down, according to antihate.ca. And I'm really curious to see exactly who these groups are going to be that they're going to list. I've noticed. Guess who they work with, Leigh? The ADL, the Anti-Defamation League, just so happens to be one of their partners here who look out for hate groups. So, big surprise. I think groups like the antihate.ca are going to come after people who promote 9/11 conspiracies, as they will call them, people who produce these types of films, because as they will say, look, they got into the hands of the Danforth shooter, and look what he did. Leigh, what do you think about this antihate.ca website? And, they say they've already shut down so-called alt-right neo-Nazi propagandists. I don't know who they're referring to, but what do you think about this? It seems like a good thing, but we know it's going to be used to just censor people like us.
Well, who's defining hate speech? I mean, who is it that's defining the hate speech? Is critiquing M103, is that considered hate speech? Because then I'd be on that list.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna. I have a feeling I know who the top 3 people would be within Canada on that list, just off the top of my head, who make documentaries or run for mayor. So yeah, I don't know. I just I find it very comical. It's another way. I said this when Alex Jones was actually taken. Scrubbed off the internet, that anyone right of Alex Jones is literally going to be hiding, because we're next. First they came for Alex Jones, and you know what? Anyone who speaks anything remotely close to the topics that he talks about, are going to be next. So this is just going to be next level, us being scrubbed off the internet per se. So.
Yeah, I mean, they already started, like you said, with Alex Jones being the first domino, and then, it wasn't too long after that we saw the Facebook purge of independent media, and I was one of those who got included in that. That was brutal. In fact, I'm still feeling the effects of that today. People, probably just forgot about it. It's like, oh yeah, that happened to Press for Truth. That sucks. Well, 350,000 people who followed us on Facebook no longer, get to, see our daily things and our memes and our posts and things like that. It's just gone. They just decided, you know what? We don't want you on the platform anymore, so we're going to remove you. So that's that. And I haven't put any effort into building it back up because, you know what? Screw Facebook at this point. There's so many other platforms out there, decentralized platforms built on blockchain technology that are a lot better when it comes to censorship moving forward. So I'm going to stick with Steemit and DTube and BitChute and Minds and all these types of video sharing platforms that are decentralized and won't censor us. Let me quickly go back.
Right. I think it's important to diversify.
Yes.
Diversify your social media.
Totally. Diversify your social media into, I think I'm on like Gab and MeWe and BitTracker is a Patreon alternative thing, and I'm starting to lose track of all the things I've signed up to, but that's kind of what you have to do. Like you said, you got to diversify your media, video sharing portfolio, if you will, and spread your eggs out. You can't have them all in one basket because we've seen what they're doing. They did it to Alex Jones. They're going to be coming for us. So yeah, and that reminds me, folks.
I just want to make one more point as well, is that they actually want us in our own echo chamber so that we're not reaching the masses. And people say, why aren't you going to Gab and just staying over there? Or why aren't you going to, places like Steemit, or like smaller, just grassroots video sharing sites? In my opinion, you want to stay on social media platforms like Twitter and like YouTube for as long as possible, because that's where the sheeple are. That's where the people are that need to be woken up to what's going on. And I always say, stay on there as long as possible, because in our own echo chamber where they want us to be, we're going to be less effective. So I think it's important to stay on platforms like YouTube for as long as possible, and keep spreading the message of truth until we can, hopefully have some success in our corner and gain some momentum on other platforms. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's why we're here right now to this day, is because the masses are on YouTube, and that's who we have to reach. But we know they can cut us off at any time, and we do not want to be disconnected from you, the audience, and they may do that sometime soon. So I want to let you guys know, I haven't been telling people about this much, but we do have a newsletter that you can subscribe to. And I don't even send out a whole lot of newsletters, so you don't have to worry about getting spammed or anything like that. Basically, I'm just collecting your emails so I can contact you individually. So if I get cut off from YouTube, there'll still be a way for me to say, hey, I'm over here now. So, if you guys have been watching Press for Truth and you're afraid that we're just going to disappear from YouTube one day, well, make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter. There is a link in the description below, because if that happens, I'll be sending out a massive newsletter to be letting everybody know where to go to find us at that point. So, yeah, be sure to check that out. The link is in the description. All right, I'm going to quickly take a look at the chat. We haven't looked at that in a little while, and I'm going to scroll back, see if we haven't missed any questions, any other questions from the audience. So bear with me. I see Josh is in the chat, World Alternative Media. What's up, Josh? If you guys haven't checked out his channel yet, you obviously should be subscribed. World Alternative Media on YouTube, putting out some good stuff. Not seeing too many questions here. Bear with me. I'm going to pop on over to Steemit, steemit.com/@pressfortruth, and we'll see if we have any questions in from anyone over here on Steemit. And let me just show you what that looks like while we're at it. I will get that up on the screen. This is the Steemit post for today, as you can see. And we've already made $1.77 on Steemit. Of course, that's Steam dollars. That's SBD or Steem, the cryptocurrency. But we don't have any new questions coming in from the Steem yet today. So yeah, we'll just leave it at that. I'll keep an eye on the chat over here on YouTube in case you guys get any questions, because I'm looking out for them right now. So let me know. Crap Game says, I'm new here. Who's the skirt? By that, do you mean the girl? I don't know what you mean by that, but this, of course,
do they mean me?
I suppose.
You never know. It's 2019. You could be the one wearing the skirt.
That's a very good point. Whoever said that, we'll pull them up on the screen right now, so everyone's chat is here live on the screen. Yeah, really. In this day and age, I mean, Leigh, did you see my my video about a week ago exposing the pedosexual sexuals and all the insanity going on with that, and the trans kids website, and that poor little Desmond kid who's just being openly abused on online? Did you catch that one? It's just unbelievable. I've been aware of that for a while, meaning to make a video about it, and then I finally got around to making a vid, and I'm glad I did. It's so brutal.
Like, it's 2019, and we have little kids dancing in bars for money. It's just it's absurd. And like, where are his parents? That video, honestly, I didn't even have any idea about that website, by the way. And when I saw that, I was just like, this stuff exists? Like, what kind of people in this world create these things? Yeah. And
Well, I'm
It's
happy to
just so
say
sad. It's
somebody
just so sad.
somebody contacted me the day after my video came out, and they said that the products were no longer available on the website, and the little Joey Packer pouch or whatever they called it was no longer available. So they ended up removing those things a day after my video was released, and then I noticed they also put on their homepage, which wasn't there before, a message saying if you're going to email us with harassing messages, we're going to send it to the authorities. And for every harassing message we get, we're going to donate to a trans rights activist community or whatever. So I think the video was effective, essentially. It got them to take down some products, and it got them a lot of people talking and sending them emails, apparently, voicing their displeasure with the insanity of their website. So that was good.
And like, how backwards is that? That like, if they get messages concerning messages over their website, they're going to report it to the authorities. Shouldn't it be the other way around?
Yeah, yeah, really. I mean, they should be reported to the authorities. That Desmond kid's parents or guardians, whoever's looking after that kid, should be reported to the authorities. I mean, but not only is he not being reported to the authorities, he's going on like morning breakfast TV, and he'll probably be on, Oprah or Ellen soon. It's beyond the mom should be in jail. It's more like they're putting them on a pedestal, saying, look how brave this mom is. It's just insane. It's just insane how bad it's getting. Somebody says in the chat, it's ma'am. Yeah.
It's people kind in Canada.
Yeah. That was the title of my video from yesterday. Gillette, the best a ma'am can get. A Gillette commercial was pretty brutal, cutting down evil, toxic masculinity. Did you actually see the actual Gillette commercial, Leigh?
Yeah, I was playing catch up because I was like, doing the whole Trudeau thing yesterday. But yeah, I actually watched your video, and then I saw a parody of done for women. It was actually hilarious. You mentioned it in your video, and someone actually put one together. So,
Oh, awesome.
just the hypocrisy is crazy. And if you go under their comments section, the first comment with the most thumbs up, they make some sort of joke, and they're like, my wife's son watched this and really enjoyed it. And Gillette actually answered them and was like, did not get the joke. They were like, thank you for watching and supporting us. Like, they just totally, it just went over their head. They're just oblivious. And it's just, this whole toxic masculinity thing, like where women are masculine and men are feminine, is just so clown world. It's totally like, just, I don't even know what planet we're on, but I want off the ride. Like that's how far we're going, and I don't even know what to say about it anymore. It's just absolute insanity.
I know. And like I say in the video,
being pushed with propaganda.
What's the alternative for these little boys? Are they supposed to act more feminine? I mean, what else is the alternative to shedding or shaving off their toxic masculinity, so-called? That's the only other alternative, is to be more female-like. And yeah, it's sad and ridiculous. But I'm glad there's been, the backlash we're seeing against Gillette, and not just Gillette, Procter and Gamble in general is seeing a pretty big boycott. Now, will this actually affect their bottom line? I mean, Nike went through this with the taking a chance on that Colin Kaepernick, ad, and they got a lot of backlash from that, but that's gone and forgotten about, and Nike's doing just fine. I think Pepsi Cola one time put out a commercial that everyone just absolutely hated. There was severe backlash, and they pulled the commercial off the air. They actually listened to their target market audience, and they said, oh, okay, our bad. We thought you'd like that, but you don't. Pulled it. That's long forgotten about. Nobody thinks about that anymore. So I wonder, is this going to be the case with Gillette? A lot of people say any publicity is good publicity, and the fact that they're trending on Twitter and everybody's talking about it, you hear Gillette everywhere. Some people are saying this is exactly what they wanted. This is what they were going for. This was the marketing strategy. But to me, that's a risky marketing strategy, because they could be facing serious boycott right now, which they are. So
Yeah, and I saw actually Luke Rudowski from We Are Change made a good point where he was like, it's funny when you watch these corporations pushing this propaganda and then it actually becoming like becoming a fruition in real life. Like it actually takes place in real life. Like what they're doing is actually working. These
Yeah.
big corporations are pushing propaganda and it's manifesting in real life. It's actually scary. It's terrifying.
Well, it seems to me like they've been infiltrated by these SJWs, like there's, taking them down from the inside, just like Canada has been infiltrated by an SJW. His name is Justin Trudeau. You may have heard of him. He ended up becoming the prime minister. SJWs are infiltrating this country left, right, and center. And, yeah, I think that's the case with Gillette, is that they're following a leftist narrative, as I say in the video, that there's a victimhood mentality, and at the top of the hierarchy of causing all this pain and suffering is the patriarchy. And I can't believe Gillette jumped on that bandwagon. And it makes me think, yeah, they probably got a bunch of third wave feminists sitting on their board. I mean, who else is putting out that stuff but a bunch of pink
Yeah.
haired weirdos?
And the bottom line is the attack on the family dichotomy. I think that's the end goal here is to get everyone flipped upside down and reduce the population and break up the family dichotomy. I think that's the goal here. And from what I can tell, it's kind of working.
Yeah, yeah, you couple that with everything we're seeing in the breakdown of society with things like Bill 89 and little kids being able to tell their parents that no, I wanted you to call me Sally instead of Billy, and if you don't, well, the kids are gonna, government's gonna come in and take away your kids. Yeah, that's a sign of just how crazy things have gotten here in Canada, and just kind of not necessarily going to end this one, but I want to recap on some of the things we touched on today, which was obviously the Saudi teen who just was granted asylum, the Danforth shooter who was caught with all these 9/11 documentaries, and then of course Leigh's awesome confrontation of Justin Trudeau yesterday. I wish we could have played that one for you. Unfortunately, the audio is not working out. But I want to maybe I'll put a link, I guess, in the description as soon as we're done this broadcast so you can watch it. Because that was awesome. He must have felt good after that. I know I always feel pretty, it's exciting and it feels good confronting, taking truth to power like that. What was the general vibe after the fact, and did security or Secret Service or any kind of RCMP follow you after you confronted him?
Yeah, they always follow me out of the building. Well, they have the past two times, and I forgot to call him a douchebag. Shout out to um
Scumbag,
in
you
the
mean?
chat there, World Alternative Media. He or scumbag. Yeah, that's
Scumbag.
what it was. Yeah, I didn't call him a scumbag. But yeah, so like I know he heard what I had to say, but he chose to ignore me
Mhm.
because he didn't want to talk about the hard hitting questions or the challenging questions. He'd rather talk about the Stanley Cup and what he did for Christmas. But honestly, I did it more so for the people around me. Hoping, maybe they'll go home. Maybe they'll Google what I was talking about. Maybe they'll, change their mind about Justin Trudeau or look into something that, he has done, like give $10.5 million to a convicted terrorist. I mean, time to wake up this country because it's literally going down the shitter and we don't really have a lot of time left. I mean, it's going to rely on the people. You can no longer rely on your government. Could you ever? I don't know. But, I'm done relying on my government. It's time to make people rise up and realize, that it starts with the people to want change. Look at France. Look what's happening in France. Like, as long as Canadians can buy a loaf of bread, there's going to be no change here. It's just it has to start with the people, and that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to see if I can, one last time, we'll see if we can play the video, and maybe I'll just put my mic from mine right up to the speakers, and hopefully that'll work, because we had a little bit of problems with the audio earlier, but let me go ahead and see if we can play this now so you can see you guys can see this in this broadcast. yeah, I'm going to full screen this and I'm going to play it. Let me just pull it back. And yeah, check this out. This is Leigh confronting the Prime Minister of Canada yesterday. Check this out. All right. Did you guys?
Yeah, I got a few claps there. A few lone claps in the audience, and like a few people that were like, "Hey, I like your sweatshirt," but other than that, it was literally radio silence. It's like I was saying earlier, that photo that was taken from the live stream of his town hall, where everyone's just like they look like zombies. It sums up the apathy in this country, and it's just it's crazy. Like I actually got a text message from Faith Goldie right after I did that. And I sent her that photo, and she's like, "Why does everyone look dead inside?" And I was like, "Because they are." It's just so sad. Like when you look at the people all around me, they're just like, there's one person in the back who's like hiding her face because she doesn't want to be seen at a Justin Trudeau rally. And just all these people just look like they're just zoned. Like, what are they thinking? Yeah, it's just crazy. Like the lady's staring off into space. Like, is anyone home? Like, is anyone?
Yeah.
It sums up Canada in one photo.
Oh, you gotta love it. And then there's Leigh in the middle, doing her thing with the "Make Trudeau a Drama Teacher Again" hoodie. Oh, this is just gold, yeah. Leigh. This is gold. So good. And it's funny how the mainstream media pundits, picked up on it right away, and they're like, "Hey, that's that heckler from last year." Oh, it's so funny that they recognize
what also too I found really interesting is last year he actually took the time to address my question because he was well versed on that subject. He had heard about that before. I don't know if Brock Blaszczak had been brought up at his town halls yet this year, or the $1.8 billion that they're cutting off from disabled veterans starting in April.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't know how to answer that question, so he totally shunned me off. And it's funny because that was his way of letting the mainstream media know, don't be reporting on this because I'm not even acknowledging it. It's very interesting. When he acknowledged me last year, the mainstream media was all over it. This year, because he didn't answer my question and he kind of pushed me aside and didn't even bother to listen to my question, the mainstream media kind of like went radio silent. There was maybe two people that made comment that might have been watching the live stream of the town hall, but he literally dictates what the mainstream media is going to be talking about because there was nothing in the media about this. Nothing. Like Justin Trudeau gets heckled. He didn't have an easy time. People were there challenging his questions and challenging him with questions, and the mainstream media fell short. Like if I was there or if you were there and someone stood up and heckled Justin Trudeau, we would absolutely be reporting on that. That just shows the bias, like the $585 million that he gave to mainstream media. He's bought the mainstream media. He now dictates the mainstream media. That's why it's so important to support independent grassroots media like Press for Truth, like World Alternative Media, who's in the chat right now. Support us because we will report on things happening like Justin Trudeau getting heckled.
Yeah, totally. And not only will we report on that, we'll be the ones actually doing it. Like Leigh's gotten them twice now, really good.
Exactly.
I confronted Trudeau a number of times, asking him about Bilderberg and asking him about Bill C-51 and a number of things. I want to get to a couple of these super chats, Leigh. We got some super chats coming in. One from the Economic Truth. He says, "You cannot avoid avocados forever." I'm not avoiding avocados. I don't know what
Oh,
you're.
there's an avocado shortage or something.
Oh,
I'm
really?
surprised that question wasn't brought up at Brock University, actually. Why wasn't there any avocado outrage at Brock University yesterday with all the students and their avocado toast? I mean, I
Wow,
don't know.
I missed that one. All right, the avocado story. We'll get all over that one. I'll do a video on that maybe tomorrow. Eugene, thank you so much for the super chat. Very very appreciated, greatly appreciated. As Leigh said, we need your support here in independent media. As you guys know, they're cracking down on us. They're trying to censor us. They're purging us systematically from various social media sites. But we're not down and out. We still have you. You know, it's interesting. We have over 200,000 subscribers here on YouTube. And other channels, Leigh, who have as many subscribers as we do, they average like 3,000 or 4,000 live viewers at a time. How many do we have? 280 people watching right now? It's just ridiculous. We got 200,000 subscribers and only a couple hundred people watching live at any given time. We're obviously being censored. We're being shadow banned. People don't get the notifications. They often tell me they've clicked on the bell and they never get notifications. In fact, let me know in the chat if you guys got a notification for this live broadcast, or did you just stumble upon it? Because that seems to be the case. They're all over us lately. Speaking of the chat, I'm going to pop on back over here too. Keep an eye on it and see if we have any other questions. Somebody says your link to shattershock.ca doesn't seem to be working. Bongloader says, oh, thanks for the heads up. Yes, I will look into that. They were sponsors of mine a couple of years ago, and I haven't actually removed their links from my. They don't sponsor me anymore, but I left their links in there because they're good guys. But maybe this website is not happening anymore, so I'll check that out. Leigh and Dan both do wonderful work, says, are you watching? Thank you so much for that. Dan, if you ain't calling out the J at this point, you're one of them, or paid off by them. Having Leigh on shows this. Dan, a Canadian trader for anyone new here, says, idea generator, 1. Now, I don't know who you're referring to by J, idea generator, but I think I have a pretty good idea of who you're referring to. And it's funny, Leigh, how we always get that, you know, we must be controlled by the Jews, because we're not saying that everything is caused by the Jews. And apparently that makes us
I'm just going to say
traitors.
something real quick. I'm gonna say something really quick. Just because someone doesn't talk about the JQ doesn't necessarily mean, or you know, there are people out there who address the JQ who are controlled opposition. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's pretty ridiculous. But you know, thanks for chiming in, anyways. We appreciate it. All right, if anybody else has any questions, let us know. I'm not seeing too many other here. And we've been going for a little over an hour, so we may wrap this one up soon, unless you guys get any more questions in here. Or Leigh, if you have any other things on your mind that you wanted to talk about. I mean, some of the videos we put out this week are pretty telling of the state of Canada. I mean, the new driving laws, holy. You know, the fact that they can come into your home now.
Oh my gosh.
2 hours after you
2 hours after you've been driving.
Come in and demand that you take a breathalyzer. Have you guys heard of this? If you haven't heard of this, the police now have they don't need any reasonable suspicion to suspect that you're intoxicated. First of all, they can just demand a breathalyzer now. They don't have to have reasonable suspicion. Nothing, no reason whatsoever. They can just come up and say, yeah, blow into this thing. You have to, or you'll be arrested. But it's not just that. They can come to your home or your bar or your hotel room or golf course or wherever you may be 2 hours after you've been drinking and demand that you blow on a breathalyzer. And I brought up, you know, the obvious problems with this. Like in the scenario of, let's say you come home after work and you start drinking, you know, and you're relaxing on the couch and you've been drinking for about an hour and a half, and the cops come to your door and they say, we've received a report that there's somebody driving erratically, and we know you've been driving, so we need you to blow into this breathalyzer or you'll be arrested. And then if you do, you're going to blow over. It's just absolutely pure insanity. Another scenario I pointed out in my video was if you're on the way to your bar, you're driving, but your wife's going to be the designated driver to take you home because you know you're going to be drinking when you get there. And then you arrive, you start drinking, and an hour and a half later, some cops come in and they're like, you were operating a car a few hours ago. We need you to blow on this breathalyzer. It's like, well, I'm in a bar. I've been drinking. Well, you're under arrest then, sir, because you've been operating a car in the last 2 hours. That's actually where we're at here in Canada with our driving laws. And Leigh, one of the things that most people don't realize is that this comes into play when it comes to cannabis as well. They're going to be swabbing your DNA, mouth swabs on the side of the road. Mandatory DNA samples are going to be collected at the side of the road, and they don't need a reason to suspect that you might be intoxicated or high or anything like that. That's how bad it's getting.
Yeah, they're actually creating criminals, a new wave of criminals
Hey,
out
Leigh,
of new laws, which
sorry to interrupt
is
that
interesting.
thought. I just noticed my battery on my laptop is about to die, so I'm going to run and grab the cord and plug it in. So yeah, if you want to touch on that again, the driving thing, I'll be back in literally like 30 seconds. But I just gotta plug in, otherwise
Yeah, okay.
we're gonna die. But you got the floor for 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay. So what I was saying is that this lawyer that I was reading an article, he was commenting on the fact that it's creating a new wave of criminals, like unnecessarily, and that the drunk driving laws, like the cops coming to your house 2 hours after you've been driving, or the roadside DNA mouth swab. I call it a DNA mouth swab because that's actually what they're collecting. It's going to be fought in court. So many people are going to be bringing this to court, and it's just going to be thrown out because there's just so many loopholes and so many, like, THC stays in your system for 30 days. I mean, who's to say when you consume THC and it can still be in your bloodstream? I mean, it's just so ridiculous. The underlying issue here is that police are going to be walking into your home without any probable cause and taking mouth swabs from you and your saliva sample, and even if you tested negative in your saliva sample, what do you think they do with the sample after that? Do you think they throw it away? I'm going to go on a whim here and say probably not. You're going to be in some database somewhere, God knows what for. Mm-hmm. The same thing with those Ancestry 23andMe things and Ancestry.com, where you send in your saliva sample. It's the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not giving my saliva to anybody. That's for sure. They can take me in, I guess. Yeah. I'm not doing it. Well, not willingly anyway.
Well, here's an interesting thing to ponder, that somebody suggested this to me, and I thought, you know what, you make a very good point here. I was thinking, if this happens to me and they pull me over and they demand that I do the mouth swab, naturally I'm going to want to refuse. But as my friend pointed out, you can't constitutionally challenge this thing based on a refusal. So if this goes to court, a judge is not going to let this go constitutionally to the Supreme Court and things like that based on a refusal. However, if your charter rights were violated, if they demand that they take it from you and they take it from you, well, now you have a case. Now you have something that you can actually put up a charter fight against, is the fact that you were violated and they took your DNA without you wanting them to. Then you have a case. But in the case of a refusal, the entire case will be all about the refusal. That's all the lawyer will make it about. That's what the judge will talk about. That's all it'll become about, is the fact that you refused. And like you said, it's going to be hard to go through with the constitutional challenge based on a refusal. But if you didn't refuse, you were forced to get it, and then in court you constitutionally challenge this, that's something a judge can get behind. So just something to think about. I know I said to everybody in my video, look, if you come up with this, like, just don't do it, refuse it. But there may not be a whole lot that you can fight on in court if you do refuse it. And we do know that they can just say that you are intoxicated if you refuse it. So, rethinking my strategy here, it might be more wise to do it and then constitutionally challenge the fact that you were forced to do so. What do you think about that?
Yeah, maybe.
Because I know it's a tough one.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because we don't want to have to do that. You want to stand up to these incremental, pushes down on our freedoms at every chance you get. But like the very good point my friend made is that the case will be all about the refusal and what judge is going to get behind a constitutional challenge when they didn't even do anything to you. So, anyways, play it by ear, if you will. Take it. Based on the circumstance. And as I said, make sure you have a camera in your vehicle so that you can document all of this. That's going to be really important. So you're going to want to do that before you come up to these situations. So if you don't have one, get yourself a camera that can record the inside of your car and these interactions with police that we're probably inevitably going to have, especially under legalization. Police have been instructed to be on the lookout for so-called high drivers. Even though, did you know a lot of studies show that you're not even necessarily intoxicated or impaired to drive when you're high. Sure, you might be slightly intoxicated in the sense of you're high, but your driving is usually not impaired. Studies have proven this. But anyways, it just goes to show the sad state of Canada and that we're essentially living in a police state. When the cops can come into your home and demand a breathalyzer and take your DNA on the side of the road, I think it's safe to say, Leigh, police state is here. G20 in 2010 was just a little, like a glimpse, a little taste of what's to come. But, I mean, we're all out surrounded by Big Brother, and we're being led by an SJW, sellout. So, it's really bad.
It is really bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
All right. On that note, see you later, everyone. No, we can't end it on that note.
I'm just trying to think of things upcoming. I'm hopefully there's actually a convoy going from Alberta in protest of Justin Trudeau. All the truckers there for the Yellow Vest movement that has stemmed from the pipeline protests that are going on out there. They're actually sending a convoy from Alberta to Ottawa, all across Canada, and they're going to be having people join them as they travel to go to Ottawa. So I'm hopefully going to be covering that once they get to Ontario. If it's not too cold and the weather isn't too bad, I'm hopefully going to be covering that, and hopefully maybe I'll live stream or make a video of that. That's in the next coming few months. I don't know the exact date because they've kind of kept it under wraps on Facebook. They haven't really disclosed a lot of information about it yet. So convoy.
Did you see
caravan or whatever you want to call it?
The Yellow Vest Canada Facebook group ran into some trouble. I saw them catching some mainstream news attention because some people in the group were calling for the death of Trudeau, calling to go and shoot him or something like that. And mainstream media jumped all over it and said, look, this Yellow Vest Canada Facebook page needs to be shut down because, there's people calling for violence. I think they're just scared of the movement that's brewing. Started in France, obviously, but it's trickling into other countries. And I was kind of excited about that bank run idea. But I don't know if that a whole lot of really came of that. I haven't heard too much of it. It seems to have just fizzled out. Because if you're going to actually do a bank run, everybody has to be involved here in order for it to really, truly trigger a panic run. So it was a good idea, but it didn't really pan out. But it should be interesting to see where the Yellow Vest movement takes Canadians. And, and what they're going to do.
Yeah. And in regards to that Yellow Vest Facebook page, who's to say those aren't, Fedbook agents
provocateurs
trying to start stuff? Exactly. We see provocateurs at protests all the time. They exist online as well. So always remember that if you see someone threatening violence or something like that, or saying they're going to do something to the prime minister, an act of violence that's probably going to be used as an excuse to shut down the Facebook page. I don't know if they're still up there. Actually, they were talking about actually shutting it down. But yeah, and as far as the bank run goes, I wish they wouldn't really announce it so publicly, because in order for it to really be successful, I think they kind of have to keep it under wraps and just kind of do it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm really excited about what's going on in France, and yeah, what's going on over there is pretty intense. So
Yeah, totally. And so long as we can channel that into an area that's going to actually provide solutions for these people who are getting out in the streets. Like, I'm reminded of the Occupy movement, when it was like, yeah, it's great that all these people are getting out in the streets and getting active and like, yes, let's go out and change this system. But then they started, talking about the 1% versus the 99, and they were kind of skewed at who the real enemy is. It's not the 1%. It's not people on Wall Street. It's not your average millionaire. It's the 0.0001%. It's the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and these global elitists who we need to be concerned about. So yeah, I just hope that this movement continues to move into an area that's actually going to hack at the root of the problem, which is government, which is centralized banking, which is this system of fiat lending where they can create money out of nothing. And that's where I thought they were onto something with going after the banks. So yes, hopefully we see that continue here in Canada, and that's cool. You're going to be covering that as it spreads there in the East Coast. So we're going to look forward to that. What else is coming up? I know we got Acapulco. I'm going to be leaving in like 3 weeks, I think, to head down to Acapulco for my annual conference, Acapulco. I speak at this every year. This will be my 5th year. Me and Luke Rudowski and sometimes Josh Sigurdson, we all put on a workshop as well at Acapulco to teach people how we do what it is that we do here in independent media. So that's on Valentine's Day of next month. So that's coming up soon too. So I'm going to be gone for 10 or 12 days and going to be banging out as many videos as I can on the road, doing some interesting interviews. So lots coming up in the near future, but I think we might want to call this one for today, Leigh. Going on about an hour and 20 minutes, seems like a good length. Covered some good topics today, got some good stories in, answered some questions, had some trolls, all the usual good stuff. So I want to thank everybody in the chat for tuning in. Thank you so much for the super chats. And still continue to share this link. We're not going to be live anymore, but yeah, spread the video. A lot of good information contained herein. So please share the link. And yeah, Leigh, any final thoughts on today's stories, or anything you want to say to close this one out?
Don't always hold your government accountable. Always hold the government accountable, and yell at your prime minister.
Don't be afraid to call it. Yes, amen. Amen. When you get the opportunity to go and confront your prime minister, do so. Yeah, and it's so encouraging to see you do that. Honestly, it takes a lot of courage and the guts to get in front of all those people.
I was 2,000 people, and I stood up and radio silence. So it was worth it, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. But like I said, it was more for the people to go home and listen to the information that I provided them while yelling at the prime minister. Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, he doesn't really care what I'm saying. So I did it more for the Canadian people who are still sleeping. So hopefully that resonated with them, or they went home and looked up the information. And yeah, just keep spreading awareness. I'm going to be covering maybe some more Yellow Vest protests. The Women's March is coming up in Toronto that I might be going to. Might be a good time. I'm always looking for, protests going on the East Coast. central to like Toronto or in the vicinity. So if you have any rallies or any information of things going on, please send it my way on Twitter at Leigh Stewie, and my DMs are always open. So send me some stuff, and hopefully we'll see you guys on the front lines, boots to the ground, and let's start making some change in Canada because we deserve it.
Awesome. Yeah, we're all looking really forward to your coverage. And folks, be sure to pitch into Leigh when she's doing these live streams and getting on the road as well. You can do that at I think it's paypal.me/Leigh, something like that. Anyways, I'm going to have a link in the description of this video because she's going to be on the road. She's going to be doing live streams. Anything you can contribute on that front is certainly going to help as well. You can do so with myself as well, right here, this way, on this side. If you scan this right here, you can contribute some Bitcoin. I know it's a bit of a bear market, so people probably don't want to be giving up any other Bitcoin right now. But if you feel so inclined, you can scan this code right here on the screen and do so, and that'll be greatly appreciated. So once again, this is Dan Dixon, Leigh Stuart, reporting for Press for Truth. I want to thank everybody again for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you once again for the super chats. And that's all for today. We will be back reporting with more.
We'll see you guys next time
soon. Yes, we will see you again soon. Thanks again, everybody. Take care. Peace.